the Postmodern Art Podcast, a podcast dedicated to giving artists who are wowing the world over the platform they deserve. I'm your host, Nathan Ragland, and if you're listening to this on the day of release, happy Indie Animation Day! The time of year to where we get to celebrate the best that indie animation has to show and really raise the community up together. So I thought I'd do my part with today's episode by really presenting someone who has used indie animation not just to create an incredible short, but to present you all a fantastic world. Today's guest is Wisdom Nunn, better known as Wizzymmd70, an animator best known for developing his own indie animated pilot, mainly by himself, called Bob's World. For those that know the story of Bob's World, hearing that a 14-year-old was able to basically single-handedly create such an incredible piece of animation is an incredible story on its own, but I definitely wanted to have Wisdom on here to talk not just about that experience, but how he has gone forth and continued making more of Bob's World, and how indie animation has truly helped bring forward his creative vision. I felt like that's the best way to represent what Indie Animation Day is all about, and that's why I wanted to present you guys with what I think is a fantastic conversation with a very talented artist. If you enjoy our guests today, make sure you support Wisdom with the links down in the description below, especially on YouTube, checking out Bob's World if you have not today. If you enjoyed the podcast, make sure you like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. Leave 5 stars wherever you can. You know I see that stuff. You know it means the world to me. And look, since we are here on Indie Animation Day, if you guys want to help a little further, really support the indie animation community, maybe you should consider checking the link in the description below for the Indiegogo for The Evil Little Thing. For the past month, I have been trying to promote this incredible project that is spearheaded by Tipsy J Hearts, bringing forth an incredible adult animated horror comedy starring a demon goat causing chaos onto the world. Who does not want to see that? So if you truly want to show some support on this wonderful Indie Animation Day, if you are able to, either donate or spread the word about The Evil Little Thing. Any help would be greatly appreciated. But now, without further ado, please enjoy the Postmodern Art Podcast. Thank you for taking the time to do this more than anything else. Like, whenever I saw that you'd followed me on Twitter, like, randomly, I'm like, oh crap, okay, let me see what I can do about this. So it's an honor it's an honor really to have you on this podcast.
Oh my God, thanks so much. I really appreciate that. It's super cool to be here.
Yeah.
I think what you're doing is like amazing, especially for like just indie artists overall.
Yeah, absolutely. How'd you I have to ask, kind of a, buffing up my ego just a little bit, but how'd you hear about the podcast in the first place?
I think I looked through like my maybe like recommended like following section, and I saw like posts. I saw your account, and I was like, oh, this is so dope.
Yeah.
And I just like followed. You follow me?
Have you had a chance to go through any of the episodes, listen to some of them yourself? You have any personal favorites right off the bat?
Yeah, I caught a few. Definitely I'll be watching some more, especially like today after we're done here. But yeah, it's super cool what you're doing.
Oh no, absolutely. Trust me, I'm amazed myself the people I'm able to get on this podcast, yourself included. So yeah, no, it's a super surreal experience. All I am is just a little forklift driver in nowhere, Georgia, and here I am getting an opportunity to talk to cool artists and stuff. Like, hey, it's what you make of this, right?
Yeah, most definitely. Yeah. From the videos I've seen, like everyone has like such like cool backgrounds, and like yours included, and like my like posters and stuff are on like sides of the walls and not the back.
I mean, to be fair, you're in a college dorm. I mean, there's only so much you can do to make it look, elegant.
This is my bedroom at home.
Oh, that's your bedroom at home. Oh, okay. I'm so rude of me to assume. My bad.
No, it's all good.
I mean, hey, to be fair, like I'm digging like the cozy vibes you got going with your setup with the little LED light and stuff. You got the little guitar in the corner, little drawing tablet right there, ready to go for whatever. All right, Wisdom, before we really get going, I must ask the icebreaker question of the podcast, if I may. Let's say you get to go to a deserted island on your own accord. It's just you alone with your thoughts. You get to kick back, relax, breathe, get to truly enjoy yourself for a little bit. With accommodations, you're not stranded on this island. It's like a little personal, paradise more than anything else. Like you have all the accommodations and everything.
Yeah.
To help make sure you don't go completely insane on this island, you can bring one piece of media or one piece of art with you to help with whatever kind of headspace you want on this island. If
All
given this
right.
opportunity, what would that one piece be?
Ooh, I think like right off the bat, I was thinking like a sketch pad.
Okay.
I think I'm really inspired by just the visuals around me, and I'll try to draw that if I don't get like annoyed by things not coming out as planned.
I mean,
Yeah.
we can always provide you with a pile of sketchbooks or whatnot for however long you want to stay on this island. Because again, this is your little paradise. But I mean, like I appreciate that you want to go with, I guess, like a more natural approach, just like taking in your environment and then translating that into your own art. Like that's honestly cool to hear. Like, is that more or less like how you go about your art, like in real life, like just kind of taking in your surroundings and just exploding it onto the paper?
Kinda. I think I do that more in like in college recently, like because I've been doing classes and doing drawings of like trees and buildings and stuff like
Okay.
that. But usually it's just kind of just anything I find cool on the internet.
and,
Or whatever.
and to be fair, with what everything that's on the internet, that's both an interesting thing and a very scary thing.
Exactly.
But regardless, a sketchbook. That is your answer. You're locking that in.
Yeah, I'll lock that in.
Then if
Sketchbook.
then if that's the case, I cannot think of a better way to start the Postmodern Art Podcast. Welcome everyone. I am your host Nathan Ragland. Feel free to like, share, subscribe, or follow whatever audio streaming platform you prefer. The Indiegogo for the Evil Little Thing is live right now. Go to the link in the description below to support that today. You know, it's when this episode comes out, it's Indie Animation Day. Support Indie Animation. And follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Postmod Art Pod for future updates and guest announcements, including today's guest. He is an animator best known for developing his own indie animated pilot mainly by himself as a teenager called Bob's World. Welcome to the podcast, Wisdom Nunn, aka Wizzymmd70.
Hello.
How are you doing today, Wisdom?
I'm doing very good, very well. Um, and it's just been a pretty chill day. I've been Sunday's my break day, so I'm just like usually chilling, or I'll just like try to animate or draw something just cause.
Well, I'm thankful that you took time out of your break day to sit down and chat on here today. Like I said before, whatnot, obviously, when I first heard of you whenever Bob's World first came out and like seeing kind of how much of a following that had immediately and obviously the story that people would tell behind it, like it's inspirational more than anything else. That's why I thought, especially on, again, when this episode comes out on Indie Animation Day, why not, tell that story, for all the people that might be inspired to try to do indie animation themselves. But before we jump into that, I want to go back, I guess, just a little bit because of relatively how young you are. I want to go back just a little bit and learn more or less the origin story of Wisdom. What got you interested in art and animation in the first place?
Okay, so let's can I break that down into two sections, like art and then animation?
Please do.
Yeah. So art. When I was really young, like I was really inspired by my dad because he drew a lot and he still draws a lot.
Okay.
He had this like really big sketchbook and he'd draw like a lot of things that I'd suggest to him, like draw like Scooby Doo and like the Mystery Machine, or draw draw me and my siblings and stuff like that. And he did it. And I was just like so amazed by that. And I think that's what like started it for me. And for animation, I think just like it just kind of became like, yeah, this will be it. I forget exactly like either the movie or the project that got me into like loving animation so much, but I think it was probably when I was really young, like I watched a bunch of like Scooby Doo and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm a huge fan, very big Scooby Doo fan. And I think just watching that and just like going from there, like seeing how funny cartoons could be, or like how dramatic things could be, or how like beautiful things could be. Just like it just became like, yeah, I'm just gonna do that. That's what I want to do.
I mean, I, I mean, certainly it's a good foundation for both aspects of it. I mean, like I have to ask, when it comes to your dad, like was he an artist himself, or was that something that he just kind of did to kind of express himself on the side?
Yeah, he is. He's an artist, an incredible one. Yeah, he doesn't like draw as much in like the sketchbook, or at least from what I've seen. He like does stuff for making cars. He makes like these RC cars.
Oh.
very big, and it's super cool. It's incredible how he does it, and he draws a lot of like concepts and stuff, and he does a lot of like 3D printing, and it's just incredible to see.
Absolutely. And then of course you were talking about obviously the cartoons like Scooby Doo being a good influence. Look, I was one of those kids growing up to where like my mom would always get like first VHS but then DVDs of like some of the newer Scooby Doo stuff and like some of the cool Scooby Doo adventures like Down Under, like the werewolf mystery like race one, whatever that one was called.
Yeah.
Like, and especially I can only imagine like for you, like especially the different ways that they kind of just explore different characters and different scenarios and whatnot like that. Obviously I have to applaud, that's a good foundation. Like, is there any particular thing that you hold near and dear when it comes to Scooby-Doo in general? Like, why is that like your go-to first place to go to?
I think like one thing is like the ensemble cast, like the
Yes.
5 characters in a group, like that's such a staple for things. And I'm like, I that's so cool because you have a bunch of characters and you're gonna like fall in love with at least one of them. Like so, that and just the Mystery Machine. Like the Mystery Machine
Yes.
is like one of the most like greatest things to me like in existence for some reason.
Abs. I mean, the design, whoever initially designed that, like they nailed it right on the head. Like it's just like it's one of those like timeless designs that everyone wants, and to this day, people still want for like their vans when they own one for some reason. um,
Yeah.
I was gonna say like it reminds me. So bringing myself into the conversation a little bit, I'm a huge wrestling fan, and there's a wrestler in All Elite Wrestling. I think her name is Sky Blue, but she recently has been rocking like wrestling gear that looks exactly like the Mystery Machine thing. Like the nice little wavy colors, the little flowers and stuff, like the contrasting blue and green or whatnot. Like it's perfect recreation.
That's awesome.
I got
Yeah.
I gotta find a photo and share it to you at some point. So obviously I'm curious, when did it go from just like a general love and appreciation for art and animation stuff to a passion and wanting to make it your career?
Career. I think hmm, some of this stuff kind of gets a little hazy for me to be honest, but I think um at some point I just think I was just like it was just like a no-brainer. It was just like because I had been doing art for so long, or I guess like doing it constantly, and I just kind of like in my brain I'm like I'm just gonna keep doing this. And in some way, shape, or form, I'm just gonna keep doing what I want to do. If that kind of answers your question, I'm
No,
not sure if that.
I think it perfectly does because I mean, like for some people, like that it either comes to them early or it comes to them like way later in life when they have that kind of like spark moment of like, oh, this is what I love. This is the career I want to do. Um,
Yeah.
for me personally, like I knew I wanted to do something with like entertainment in one way or another, but I didn't really have that like flicker moment of like, oh, this is exactly what I want to do until I at least got to college and like got to experience what it was like to work in like filmmaking and stuff along the lines of that. I knew I wanted to do something in that general field, hence why this podcast kind of exists because it's kind of a way for me to express that entertainment aspect. um
Hmm.
but I can imagine for you, especially growing up in such a like, from what I could tell, art rich atmosphere in the first place. Like it's kind of easy, especially seeing that you're surrounded by this stuff. It's kind of easy for it to click in your head, be like, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do.
Yeah. Like, yeah, my dad is an artist. My sister used to draw a lot. My other sister is a designer.
Ooh.
And my brother is also draws sometimes too. And my mom not so much, from what I can tell. But we're all like, it's not just in that one way that we're artists, but we're also musicians as well. Like
Okay.
me and my sister have a band. We're called Nunnabove,
None above.
and yeah, it was a nun. And like we were just really encouraged by our parents from a young age to just kind of just keep doing what we want to do. Um, and I think just from there, because of that encouragement, it just became that no-brainer where it's like, yeah, I'm gonna keep doing what I want to do. Therefore, like I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and etc.
Again, honestly, I can relate to that because again, when it comes to this podcast, one of the things that has kept me going with this thing is my dad trip, just like being proud that I'm able to do something that I love, that I'm able to do it. Like the fact that I love doing conversations like this, the fact that I love entertaining people in one way or another. Like I can get that. And I'm glad to hear that your parents really encouraged that. So I'm wondering how much of that encouragement and love for art and animation led you to realize at a very early age, you know what? I can make my own animation. So I obviously, like, I brought you here because everyone that does know you, they know you for a very particular project known as Bob's World. That's right, people. We're already jumping into this bad boy. I'm curious, like, how did Bob's World, like, the concept of it, how did it come to be for you? Like, when at point, words come back to me. Words are wonderful. At what point, like, did you kind of develop the concept of what you wanted to see for this Bob's World?
Yeah, so this like goes way back to when I was in second grade of
Oh
like
wow.
elementary, yeah, elementary school, and my brother and I we had these things called Knuffle bunnies. Do you know what Knuffle bunnies are?
I don't, off the top of my head, I do not know what Knuffle are.
Oh yeah, there was this book series called like it's like Knuffle Bunny something, I forget,
Okay.
but they're these green bunnies
Okay.
and stuffed animals. And one day our elementary school brought them in so we could like make them ourselves. And so
Ooh.
I made one. It did not look good. And my brother made one as well. And when we were coming home, like I named mine Fred for some reason. I think I probably named mine Fred because of Fred from Scooby Doo.
Okay.
And yeah, and then my brother wasn't sure what to name him, I believe. And then we both like thought like what's like the funniest name we could think of at the time, and it was Bob. So and then from there, we just like started like making these really like stupid stories. Just like before bed, we just like play around with the stuffed animals a bunch. And then like when he was like done playing with them, like a few years afterwards, I was like, oh, bummer. So I like started making comics with them when I was
Okay.
in like yeah. And then um, after the comics, it became animatics, and then I was around like 12 when I started to like really get into animatics and stuff like that and drawing storyboards. And I was really hung up on that because like I can never like make it past the animatic stage for some
Okay.
reason. Um, and I then was like, I'll just fine. I'll just start animating. Like if I'm so stuck up, like I'll at least try to animate this thing in some way, shape, or form. And then I think the first time I tried it, I failed, and I just like stopped.
We all got to
um,
start from somewhere, all right?
yeah. Um, yeah, that was the first time, and then I believe the second time I was just really inspired by, or like the time where I actually did it, I was really inspired by like watching Steven Universe the movie. For some reason that just got me really amped. And I was like, fine, I'll do it. I'll just animate a pilot. And that's where it came from. I was 14 at the time. This is like September of 2019. And I was like, I even like posted on my Instagram. I was like, I'm making this pilot. It's gonna come out a year from now.
Yeah, Laura, who knew that you would have so much time to get that done within the next year, huh? Anyways, no, first off, I want to say that is probably the most wholesome origin story I've ever heard when it comes to characters with the little Nuffle bunnies. Like that, that's just adorable to hear more than anything else. But I'm glad to hear that, like, something that started as simple as a couple of little bunnies or whatnot eventually evolved into this incredible creative project that you decided to go all in full force on it. The thing that impressed me more than anything else is, like, obviously, you're thinking at like 12, 13, 14 years old that you were going to animate this thing. That's either extremely naive or really impressive. Probably a little bit of both. So I'm wondering, like, how did you get the idea in your head that, you could animate in the first place? Like, for a lot of people, they don't realize until they get like more into that field, like how to animate. So like, how did you how did you learn to animate in the first place? I guess would probably be the best way to ask this.
So I am a self-taught animator.
Right.
And when I forget when I first like started to animate, it was probably like Flip Notes or something like that.
Okay.
Actually, now that I think about it, it was um trying to replicate those like Captain Underpants like flip covers. Yeah.
Yes.
So I tried to make those in my Bob's World comics.
Okay.
I believe I did that, and then um, I was like really inspired by like this one video of Eric Goldberg. Um, I believe that's his name from Disney.
Okay.
Yeah, and he was like drawing on a light table,
Okay.
and I just kept watching that video over and over again and showing my parents. And I was like, this is so cool. And then that Christmas, I believe I was in fifth grade, they got me a traditional animation light table.
Oh
Um,
wow.
yeah, and like that, I was like, what? And so that's where I just like started. That's where I started like trying to animate. I think I started with the ball, and I would do like I'd have a camera set up on the top, so it would like go to the scanner and all that stuff, and I would just like start drawing from there, and that's where I got my like my start.
That's incredible to hear. Like it goes back to what we were talking about earlier with kind of that reinforcement early on from your parents to really go forth for this passion or whatnot. The fact that they would get something that probably isn't easy to get, a traditional like light animation table, like wow, that's impressive more than anything else. Okay, and like you said, obviously you're self-taught. I mean, I imagine you're talking about YouTube videos, stuff like that, helping you along the way. That's still self-taught in my opinion, but that's regardless impressive. So at what point, again, like obviously, like you said, you with Bob's World started off as these little characters, then it went to comics, then it went to animatics, and then you decided to do with animation. What was more or less like the tipping point for you to straight up just be like, I want to make this animated. I want to tell this story in animation.
For the longest time, um, it had just been like I've always just imagined it to be that way, where it's like, oh, this show is animated. I want my show to be animated. I want like I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna do that. I forget exactly what was the tipping point, but probably like I said earlier, like the Steve Universe the movie. For some reason, I was just so like amped up to just like finally do it the way I did it.
I mean, hey,
Yeah.
it's a good spark more than anything else. Just all those different aspects leading up to that point, and I can imagine, like you said, like you posted just on Instagram, like in 1 year time, I'm gonna have my own animated pilot. I imagine that was a lot easier said than done starting out.
It was I think the hardest part of it was really just the animation part of it because like at that point I had already been making animatics.
Right.
So when I posted that I had just like started doing storyboards. And then like when after like doing the animatic stage I was like, ooh, I'm really in for it now. But that's where it like happened.
I mean, true. I mean, hey, you're a kid that kept to your word because, like, in what was it? Relatively a year's time, you released the pilot episode for Bob's World. Now, I know we've been talking about it a little bit, but for the people that, for some reason, they have not heard of Bob's World beforehand, how would you describe the world of Bob's World?
Wow, I love that. Bob's World is this show about this teenage moody bunny that encounters an orb, a cyan orb that falls in the middle of his town, and him and his friends have to find out what's going on with it.
Right.
That's the
Hey,
show.
you know what? Hey, that's a good way to describe it, but also like it leaves so much to the imagination, especially whenever you sit down and actually watch that pilot episode. Which I mean, like I said, obviously I did, and I was regardless like impressed with it and all sorts of different aspects of it. I just have to ask one question right off the bat: whose bright idea was it to see if Bob could punch the orb? Because that's not
Oh,
my
that
first.
was
Because that's not my first instinct. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, it was either me or my sister Matty who's the head writer of the show. I think I think I had started like storyboarding the show before writing it, which is
Okay.
nice. Yeah. So I think in the beginning storyboards of the pilot, I had just like drawn him like punching it for some reason. I don't know.
And I mean, to be fair, you said you did the storyboards before the actual story. You were young. You were still learning the process. That was.
Yeah.
I mean that's probably like the biggest takeaway that I want to ask from this. Like, obviously, like, going forth and animating this by yourself, like I said, it was definitely a lot easier said than done. But what was, I imagine, like, for you actually going forth and trying to do this, all the different aspects by yourself, it must have been an incredible learning experience, all different steps along the way.
Most definitely. Let's see. I started I started animation back in March of 2020. This was like right after COVID hit.
Right.
Um, and I was like, well, this is like, the most horrible situation, but like I can make the most of this because I'm not going to be in school. So now I can actually stick to my deadline and do this thing. So I think from there, I had done like a few animated things in the past, but like there were a
Nothing to
lot
this
more.
scale.
Yeah, not on this scale. So like just trying to um, get what was in my brain onto like my computer screen and being like, okay, this doesn't look good. I'm gonna come back to this later and look like check it again, make it look good, and etc. All those things. That was like what started it. I'm not sure. Wait, did I answer your question? I'm
No, no,
sorry. I got.
I think you've been answering, like, just talking about how much of this was a learning experience for you more than anything else. Like, trying to figure out how to translate what you envision in your head onto the computer screen. Like I said with the previous thing, definitely a lot easier said than done.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I can only imagine, like, if the technology was there to just, like, put a camera on your head and have it transport onto a paper, animation would be done a lot quicker.
Most definitely.
Now,
Uh,
I obviously, like, I went back to watch Bob's World in preparation and research for this podcast. Thank you very much. But I have to say, this is either going to sound like a compliment or a diss, but I'm going to be blunt whenever I say it was really impressive for a 14-year-old. Like, more than anything else. Obviously, more than anything else.
yeah, that's the thing that I hear a lot. And thank you. No, I think that's definitely a compliment.
Yeah.
It's definitely wild. Let's see, I started at 14 and finished it at 15. And like that was the thing that I'd seen in the comments a bunch where it's like you're just like you're a kid, like you're
Yeah.
doing this.
I mean, think about the people even today that are trying to get themselves into indie animation. These are people that are either like in college learning animation themselves, or people that are adults and, like, they may have been in the industry for a little bit. You don't see a lot of kids. You see a good handful of kids these days really getting into animation. I mean, I think the most famous example these days is Lego FG, the OG, the Lego kid that was able to get a scene in Across the Spider-Verse.
Hey, that's incredible, and his work is incredible as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. He is someone that I've tried to see if I can get on the podcast, so it's much easier said than done, obviously. But, like, it would be amazing just to pick at his brain to see how that experience was for him more than anything else. But back to my original point, like, obviously you can tell, like, especially with what you're doing, where there were some rough spots, but that's also, again, just you learning how to animate in the first place. Regardless, like, the story that you were telling was really great. The characters, I cannot help but cling on to them. I really love the characters that you presented right in the first place. And, like, and especially some of the sequences, especially some of the action sequences, like when Bob punches the orb, I couldn't help but love it. Or, like, when the city is like just a floating crumble of land masses here and there or whatnot, and, like, jumping from landmass to landmass. Like, that is some really impressive stuff regardless. Like, I don't care what anyone says, 14 or not, that was still a really good first step in the right direction.
I really appreciate that. Yeah. Yeah. A lot of that too is with like my sister Matty. I give credit towards for her like writing for the stuff that I like didn't change. I had changed like some things.
Mm-hmm.
But she also like was a big like help in or a big part, not help. She contributed like a lot to this like project, and she helped me a lot with the other stuff that like wasn't animation and all that stuff. So it's really dope.
Like, I was this also like her first experience, like, writing for stuff for the first place, or I assume she, like, yeah, she wrote some stuff beforehand, like, for herself personally or whatnot, or
Yeah, she writes a lot. She's
okay.
yeah,
Oh,
she's
good.
amazing.
I
She's
mean,
incredible.
and I'm happy to hear that she's still a head writer for this thing, considering the fact that, yeah, you made a big splash with that first episode, but it's not like you just put out that first episode and moved on with your life. You kept going with this. And that's the thing that I found more impressive more than anything else. Not just that you made that by yourself at 14, but, like, the growth you've had with the continuous episodes more than anything else. That's what I really want to talk about, dude. Like, because I've I made sure to watch all the episodes, and I'm just impressed the more that you have to show for people. Like, I can only imagine, especially after you did that first one by yourself, how like, was there something in your mind that's like, as fun as this was, I can't keep doing this by yourself? Like, what made you want to go forth doing a second episode, but also actually bringing on a team to make it a reality?
Yeah, so one, it was like the demand. There was like right after the pilot was posted, I think it was maybe within a week, a lot of people were just like, "What is this? Like, I want to help with it.
Okay.
I want to do stuff." And then that was like incredibly shocking to me. I'm like, "This is." I beforehand I probably had like maybe 900 subscribers on YouTube, and then after the pilot, like a bunch of people were like commenting all this stuff, and it was just extremely overwhelming. And so the demand was one. So my sister and I, like, we put together a casting call for like storyboard artists, and then soon after it was like animators. And like that was such a like surreal experience. It's even like thinking back to it, it's just like so it was like so quick. So it's like tough to
I mean,
but yeah.
I can imagine, especially for you, like this was more or less a passion project for you, like starting out. Like this is something that obviously you held near and dear for you. The more you animated by yourself, so to see other people like instantly being like, "We love this. We want to help out. We want to do more. We want to help you do more." I imagine like how both terrifying but also humbling it was to have this kind of support behind it.
It was definitely it was mostly terrifying, I'm not gonna lie. Especially like for some reason, I was not thinking about how you like YouTube works. So I was
Right.
like, I'm gonna post this and like I'll say in the description like, hey, like, you can like either like give critiques like maybe a week after it's over or something like that. But I then I realized this is like the night of, it's like filled with like maybe 30 comments already. I'm like, what's going on?
It's odd when a video of yours goes viral, doesn't it? Essentially.
It was wild.
Goodness. I mean, like, I gotta say, like, especially whenever you got the second episode out there, like, the crew that you were able to amass with it and, like, go forward with it, it's really impressive the people that, again, came on board and really, like, cleaned up whatever you had presented in the first episode. Like, I can only imagine how amazed and impressed you were the fact that you were able to assemble a crew and lead a crew, especially at, I assume at this point, like, 15, 16 years old?
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah. Yeah, that was another like wild experience. And I like the crew is incredible. We call ourselves the crew barrel
Yep.
because the yeah, and yeah, the crew is incredible. Shout out to them. Love y'all. Goodness. And that was like also a wild time because like at this point, um I'm running the show now. Like
Yeah.
I'm running with people that I'm working with them and telling them what to do, which is like wild to me because I'm like I'm not that type of person in real life. I'm such a like, please just tell me what to do and I'll do it. I never see myself as a person who's gonna be like in charge of things.
I mean, that's impressive. I mean, it also didn't help that at least with like the first episode, I could tell, especially from seeing like, especially the voice cast that you have. Like, correct me if I'm wrong. This, especially you were talking about like your sister helping you out with the writing. This seemed like a very close like family effort to help create Bob's World, and make it a reality.
100%, yes. My family they did the voices. All of like Bob is voiced by my brother. I voice Fred. My sister Matty voices Kat, and my sister Caden's voices Sam. And then I also voiced James in the first episode, and my mom plays the mayor.
Yep.
And my band None Above does all the music for the show.
Right.
It was just a built-in thing, uh, which it's perfect because if you have a band and you have an animator, you got to do something with that. So,
I mean,
um,
absolutely, and especially the I gotta say the music that you provide for Bob's World as well. Good job for None Above more than anything else. I
yeah,
I'll I'll go ahead and ask this as well. When it comes to None Above, how did that like slowly develop to be like what for you and your family? Why did you guys want to come together and make a band?
let's see. We came together as a band back in 2013 for Christmas.
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's been yeah almost 10 years now. And we played like Joy to the World. I forget exactly. Oh no, that's not true. We came together. It was like a suggestion from one of our music teachers. She was like, "Yeah,
Okay.
you should, yeah, make a band, I believe." And from there, we just kept like playing together. We had been doing um, had our own separate like music lessons for a while. I play drums. My brother Bennett plays guitar. My sister Matty plays keys, and my sister Cadence does the vocals and bass. And we came together, and we're like, okay, we'll just do this together. And same thing as with art. My parents supported us ever since, and it's yeah.
At this point, this episode should just be dedicated to your parents. Like, shout out to them for like really
Yeah.
being the
Oh
true
my God.
foundation for the artist that you are today.
Yeah, most
um,
definitely.
Absolutely. I mean, like, especially seeing how you're able to use those incredible skills in Bob's World as well. Especially with, again, subsequent episodes. Episode 2 was absolutely incredible. Obviously, me personally, I gotta say, episode 3, I love that, especially with how much you kind of just like what you had beforehand, how much you got like turned up to 11 more than anything else. And I mean, like the biggest thing for me, and I'll ask you when it comes to this, it seems like at least with the first 2 episodes, obviously, but with the third episode especially, there seems to be a lot of like an anime influence to it, like especially when it comes to like the intro of it, like the little like commercial break side characters like doing like a little pose or something like that. Like how much of an
Yeah.
influence was anime into like Bob's World and to your own art?
It's a big influence. It is a big influence on the show. Especially like on the pilot. At the time, like it was when I started it, I was definitely more influenced by like Steven Universe and like OKKO.
Okay.
I think as time went on, like I had just gotten into like probably My Hero Academia,
Okay.
and like I was like, oh, I want to like put that in the show, and like um, just these like Little Witch Academia was one of my favorite shows of all time. So that also went in. I'm like just these little things, just all over is that's yeah, it's a huge influence on the show currently.
I mean, whenever you have a bunny person fighting an orb, you can't help but think anime has a little bit of influence in it,
Oh
having
yeah.
having the smaller character fight the unknowing force as before him, you know?
Mhm, most definitely.
And I think another thing that intrigues me about the show is not just the anime influence, but obviously like the story itself that you're trying to tell. Like, what exactly is this orb? Like, what are the backstories of these characters that you keep teasing or whatnot? Why is the mayor like hiding so many different secrets? Like, you're really weaving together a very interesting narrative the more you do of Bob's World.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that's all thanks to Matty as well. She like I'm not as much of a writer. I'm like working on that. I like am getting into writing more. She's been the one who just like she's on that basically, and she's like, okay, we can play with this. I'm like, yeah, let's play with that, and let's do this and let's do that. I'm like, that works perfectly, and then I'll throw in this idea and let's put this in here. And yeah, she's incredible with that.
I mean, again, all props to her when it comes to that more than anything else. And I will say, when it comes to the writing for her, I gotta say for you and for your team as well, like the action sequences you guys are implementing with this, especially the giant robot fight scene. Like, you can't tell
Yeah.
me that, like, indie or not, that scene and that experience was impressive. Like,
Thank you. Yeah.
I can only imagine how much of a excitement it is for you to be able to bring those experiences and those like that stuff to life.
Yeah, it was amazing. That 3D sequence was animated by Oak. They are just an incredible like animator, and it like when they were like first on the team, I was like, "You do Blender?" And they were like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Okay, we gotta do something with that. Like we gotta like implement these things." Taking specific things like basically implementing the crew's own stuff into the show is a big thing, like stylistically. And I'm glad that's like coming through. I think I saw a comment on episode 3 that was like, I think it's so cool that like you can tell that it's more than just one style in
Yeah.
this show. Yeah,
Oh
and I
yeah.
was like, I'm still gonna count that. Yeah.
Exactly. Like it ironically enough, it reminds me of like Steven Universe as well, talking about like the different styles coming through. Because I mean, Steven Universe, a lot of people remember that there are times where you could tell a certain artist worked on a certain episode based on how they drew like Steven and the other characters and such. So to see that
Yeah.
that's coming through for your show as well, and people are actually appreciating and loving that, that's impressive at the end of the day.
Thank you so much.
Oh,
Yeah, I
absolutely.
appreciate it.
Oh no, trust me, I could gush more and more about Bob's World just in general, but I'm curious. Obviously, up to this point, you've released 3 incredible episodes. You got to have like a particular favorite, either episode or a particular favorite part of the entire of the 3 so far.
Favorites. Like a favorite episode. I think currently it's probably episode 3. I think like I'm proud of like all the episodes. I think they're probably yeah they're all my
Of
favorites.
course.
Specifically with episode 3, I'm just like extremely proud of just how everything kind of came together. And like I think sequence wise, there's a sequence I animated with like the crew like in that like spin around where like the shards are coming in,
Yes, yes, yes.
and that came in I think because at the time I was looking at the animatic and it didn't really have like a like kind of like punchy kind of animation thing, and I was like I kind of like wanted to add that in there, even though you're like usually you're not you're supposed to do that because it'll kind of disrupt the flow, but because of how the the show just is behind the scenes, I'm just able like we're just able to do that.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, I'll just draw some boards. What do I want to see with this? And then that was that. So that's probably like one of my favorite sequences on the show, other than the 3D robot sequence.
I was gonna say,
That was, that
I mean, to be fair, at the end of the day, this is your show. You can do whatever you want with it, man. Like, if you want to have that cool sequence, like all the shards coming in or whatnot, do it. Why not? Who's stopping you?
yeah, and then the robot sequence, yeah, Oak did an incredible job with that. They're like amazing.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, and then I think um, the first episode, I'm trailing off a little bit,
No,
but
you go. Go. Hey, hey, this is a podcast. You can trail off as far as you want. All right, go for it.
that one sequence where like he goes in where Bob goes in to punch the orb for the final time.
Mhm.
Um, that was probably that's another favorite sequence. Just like looking back at it, it's like, oh, that's nice to see again. But at the time, that like took I think maybe 2 days to animate.
Oh wow.
Yeah, just like in my room because I that was probably one of the first shots I attempted to animate at the beginning of the process of
Okay.
making the. And I was like, this looks horrible. I'm never attempting this again. And I did not come back to it until probably like 9 months later. And then I attempted it again and I was really proud of it. So yeah, that's another favorite sequence.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously, like I said, you got 3 episodes out there so far, and all the stuff you've done with it is impressive to this point. But again, you're not really slowing down. Well, I mean, if you're slowed down at all, it's because of school. Major respect to that. But even then, like the stuff that you have presented and the stuff that you're teasing with those first 3 episodes alone, like like you and your sister are really leaving a lot of breadcrumbs around for us to like trail down. Again, like what exactly is this? What is the mayor hiding? Like what exactly is the mayor's past? Where are Bob's and Fred's parents and stuff? Who was the at the beginning of episode 3? Who was the lion and the alien that we saw in the spaceship? Like how are they connected with the story somehow? Like
Yeah.
I can only imagine how exciting it has to be for you to like keep people hooked like episode after episode, like wanting to see more.
It's super exciting. I think especially with this next episode, it's like one of my favorites.
I've been seeing the stuff you've been teasing, especially with the introduction of a pirate crew as well, which
Yeah,
looks impressive.
yeah, I'll definitely go into that a little later, but it's like it's really fun just seeing the people who do take the time to dissect those things and ask like, what is Bob's real name? I've been trying to find that out for so long, or or yeah, the stuff with like the parents and just poking out all the little fun Easter eggs. It's rewarding just because I spend a lot of time putting them in. My sister takes a lot of time putting them in as well, and it's just like super fun to see.
it should be super fun to see, especially with what you're creating, what you're teasing, what you're going forward with. And if you want to, I know you've been teasing a little bit, but I have to know what should we expect in the future for Bob's World?
Specifically, I'll say with episode 4, we currently don't have a release date.
Okay.
But I'm working on a trailer for it. I will say that, and that should be coming out. I'm trying to get it out before like the 1 year, well, sorry, 3 year anniversary of the pilot in November, um, or maybe on that day. I'm not sure.
I
But
mean, just out of curiosity, what was the exact day that it released?
November 20th, 2020.
Okay, so I was gonna say, like, if it was after, you know, seeing how it's obviously when this episode comes out, hopefully keep your eyes peeled if Wisdom doesn't go ahead and like maybe release it on Indie Animation Day on November 16th. But I mean, also 3 year anniversary on November 20. That's also a good deadline to set for yourself.
No, thank you for saying that date. I actually didn't know the next indie animation day,
Oh,
so I'll keep that in mind too.
luckily I've been keeping tabs because the group that is probably one of the most responsible for it, the Sunflower Club, I keep in touch with them, and I've actually interviewed the person that is one of the people that's in charge with the Sunflower Club, Jen Rust.
Yeah.
So obviously keeping tabs with that, and also that date is ironically enough a Thursday, which is when I usually release my episodes. So it just kind of worked out for me. Like for future indie animation days, I'm going to release it on the day, no matter where it is, Wednesday, Friday, Monday. For me, I was just lucky and be like, okay, this is coming out on Thursday. Awesome. Let's go.
Yeah, awesome.
But certainly keep your eyes and ears peeled more than anything else, people, because I mean, I can only imagine, like, especially with what the borough is brewing up more than anything else, like, I can only imagine how excited you are for people to actually see what you guys have been cooking up.
Yeah, it's a different episode, I will say that. And it's really fun, and it's got some like it's got some little bit like it's a little dark, a little darker than like, or at least like the tone is a little different. I'll say that than the other episodes, which I like a lot.
Okay.
Yeah, I like the. It's a different taste, and I think that's really cool. And it still has a lot of just the original personality of like the show that you've seen, and I think people will really like the characters in this episode.
I mean, I'm
Yeah.
certainly intrigued with again what you have presented and what you've been teasing more than anything else. Like, I can only imagine just how impressive it is. I mean, as you could probably guess throughout the entire episode, I've been a huge fan of what you're doing, and I can only imagine the people that have been on board, like especially from the first episode, especially the people that have stayed on for subsequent episodes more than anything else. Like, it has to be
Yeah.
impressive, kind of the little corner of the animation world that you kind of developed for yourself.
Yeah, thank you. I think I've never even thought of it like that. I think um yeah, it's definitely like surreal, I'll say that. To see like Bob's World fans, and I just think it's like extremely heartwarming. And I remember like people I'd like do like Instagram lives at times, and I feel like there are times where I'm like, oh, no one's like really watching this show, and then I'll see people, I'll be like, yeah, like, oh my gosh, like that's such a cool thing. I'm a huge fan of this show, and that just like warms my heart. I'm like, goodness, I'm glad you you like the show.
Again, I hate to put myself into this again like that, but like, look, I have jokingly called myself a niche internet micro celebrity at times. All right, but like there are times where I'm sure I'm like, there's nobody's like really watching this podcast. Like, it's just like same couple people that may watch like a couple episodes, but like no one's really watching it. And yet on the flip side, I hear people talking about like, oh my god, you actually got such and such. Oh my god, I watched the episode. I thought it was impressive, the conversation, XYZ or whatnot, and it just all, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't have near the following that you have, but the fact that like you still see those people that are truly touched and inspired by your story, the fact that someone so young went forth and made their thing a dream, that someone decided to go out and like make their thing a reality instead of waiting for an opportunity to come to them, like I it's impressive more than anything else, and I commend you for keeping forth and going forward with this thing.
Thank you. Yeah, it's definitely like people like you, and you included, like definitely inspire me to keep going, because it's a lot. It is
Yeah.
a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, I can only imagine, especially like I said before, like trying to do this initially by yourself, and then at a young age being in charge of a team, which is a whole different experience, and keeping forward with this kind of stuff, especially in the chaotic world that is the internet, to where we don't know when it's going to disconnect. For all we know at this point, Lord help
Yeah.
us all. And then on top of all that, you're also trying to go to college for this stuff. Like you got yourself like a you got your like you got your hands full, like with 20 different hands on board more than anything else.
Yeah, it's a wild ride in all aspects, music included. That's probably
And the
the
music as
busy.
well.
Yeah, yeah.
Goodness, like I how do you how are you not like how do you strive not to get like burnt out from doing all these things? Like that's what I'm curious
Oh,
about.
I'm burnt out all the time. I'll say that. And I think like I wouldn't say I'm like burnt out right now. I think I'm like I think I do like I'm just struggling to kind of get things from my brain onto the screen.
Okay.
How I okay, and how I deal with it, I'm just like I I have to take a break, mostly because my mom like encouraged me to do so, and it's like, okay, you if you're doing this, like you have to take breaks. I'm
Yes.
like, yeah. Cool. And I just like I love watching things that I love. I watch a lot of anime. I watch a lot of just like shows and pieces of media and animated bits of media all over. Um, and like I'll just like look at art books and talk to my family. I think that's what I do a lot.
I mean,
Yeah.
and it's incredible more than anything. It's good to know that you have that good support system behind you at the end of the day, like making sure that you don't constantly burn yourself out, like making sure that you take the time to step back, breathe before you go forward into it. As much as you love it, it's kind of hard to do it if you keep burning yourself out on it, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, like especially with what you're trying to do on all different aspects or whatnot. I have to say, at the end of the day, I'm very much impressed with how you've been able to go forth with this art path. Like seriously, I know I've been gushing about this the entire time, but like seeing all the stuff that you've been able to do has been really impressive, and I can't help but commend you on all different fronts for actually going forth and making it reality.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Like sure. It's just it means a lot because it's yeah, it takes a lot of time and like it just means a ton to me, just like the medium of art and the medium of animation and just things that like go in between with that. So it's extremely rewarding to hear people appreciate what I appreciate too.
I mean, I can only imagine for you, especially with how far you've dedicated yourself to this medium and to art in general. Like, thinking all the way back to whenever you were first exposed to it from your dad and Scooby Doo at the very beginning to where you are right now, to where you're going forth and truly taking the steps to try to make this a career and going to college for this stuff. Like, does it impress you the art journey you've been able to come along so far? Like, are you impressed with how far you've been able to come along as yourself?
I am. I think like at times I fail to um, like realize that, um, and I just move like so quick that like I'm on to the next thing, and I won't pay attention to what the past was. But I do just have to like kind of sit, especially in in my art block times, and sometimes like it doesn't really like help me get back into the spirit. But like I'll just think like, wow, like I really did that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking about like my calendar from last year because I was really nervous about like getting this episode done when it was, and I was thinking like, wow, all those dates on the calendar are crossed off and like all this stuff, and I was really excited to say like, yeah, I'm done with this thing with this newest episode or the latest episode. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, I mean, I have to imagine, like, especially with, with the past and also with what you're doing in the, currently for the future, whatnot, like, what you have planned has got to be exciting. And I can only imagine what it could be like. But for this next question, for the future, what if we go a little bit above and beyond? And I give you more or less the dream scenario, if I may. Let's say I
Mm.
am Big Shot Mr. Moneybags right here. I come up to you and I'm like, look, Wisdom, we know you can do some incredible stuff. We've seen just how impressive you are, especially at your age, to be able to do all this stuff in one way or another. We want to help, we think that you just need a little extra platform, a little extra push because the world needs to see it, like more than they already do right now. We have access to anyone and everyone in whatever industry possible, and more money than there should be possible. We really should be paying those actors and soon those animators, stuff like that. We'll focus on them a little bit. Right now, we're focusing on you and you alone. If given this opportunity, Wisdom, what would be the dream Wisdom Nunn project?
Oh, projects. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna lie. I haven't thought about like the dream project. I think for the stuff that I do, it's just I love the process of creating.
Okay.
Doing stuff like making something out of nothing. And like at the moment I don't exactly have a dream project, but like there's like ideas that I just have for many things. And I think the stuff in between like creating the idea is it's just like I'm not sure how to describe it, but it's just this, I don't know, for some reason it's just magical to me, just like the in between stage. So at the moment I'm not sure if I have a dream project, but just the act of creation.
Okay. So what you're actually saying is you want to get 20 seasons of Bob's World funded and 100 city tour for none above, right?
There you go. That's perfect. Thank you.
No, honestly, I was like, honestly, I get that. Having kind of the period to kind of reflect and like really absorb like the process itself instead of trying to rush through it just to make the stuff and push it out there into the world. Like, I get the magic behind it, and I understand that more than anything else. So, I mean, like, if there's anything that Mr. Moneybags can do to help make that a reality, more or less, you let us know. The offer's on the table. We got you covered.
I appreciate it greatly. Thank you.
But sadly, we gotta get down from the dream scenario. We gotta get back to reality, and I'll ask the ever so generic question: where do you hope to see yourself, say, 5 to 10 years from now?
I would love to see me and my band like getting like even bigger and like garnering a fan base that's like and touring. I would love to see more of like my works and projects out to the world. And I would love to like work with like people that I've like dreamed of working with.
There you go.
Yeah, I think that's the dream. Or yeah.
All right, I gotta ask right off the bat, because you said you have the dream people that you want to work with. Who's on top of the list? Who's the number one person you would love to just work with?
Oh, number one.
Or at least like a top 3.
Yeah, I did like top 3. I think probably like Ian Jones Cordy,
Yes.
Rebecca Sugar. Would love to work with like Rad Seacrest,
Okay.
creator of Kipo in the Age of Wonder Beast.
Yep.
Yeah.
Hey, those are good ones to aspire for, and also 3 people I would love to have on the podcast to talk about their experience with their stuff.
Yeah.
Just to pick at their brains more than anything else.
Definitely. I think if I could continue, I think like even like on the music side, probably like Childish Gambino.
Yes.
Or Tyler the Creator, as I see in the back of
Oh
your,
yeah. No, trust me. If I have a tier for dream guest or whatnot, he's number 1. He's the number 1 person I want to talk to more than anything else.
Yeah.
I could go on for days just talking about Tyler's music more than anything else. Like I love it. I just recently got the Wolf vinyl. Because they had like
nice.
Yeah, they got like a pre-order to celebrate the 10th anniversary, and it finally came in the other day. And I'm just like, oh, it's great.
Nice. That's awesome. Yeah.
I mean, like even then, like Childish Gambino, like just getting a chance to work with him on any aspect of his art. To be honest, that's a dream more than anything else.
Yeah, that would be amazing. Yeah.
Like, can you imagine him either working with None Above on a song or providing a voice for Bob's World in the future? That would be sick.
Yeah, the dream would be like we collab on a song and then I mention, hey, I know you do voice acting. And then it would be there, yeah.
I saw your work as Marshall Lee, and I saw you on that one episode of Regular Show. Like, come on. And I know you were trying to get an animated Deadpool off the ground. I think you can. Yeah. Oh, goodness. As we start to... Oh, and also, I'm going to say, whenever you guys, for None Above, get a good couple albums out or whatnot, you let me know. Or whenever you get, like, a true, like, dedicated album out, let me know. I'd love to have you and the group on the podcast again, just to have you guys talk about that experience.
Thanks so much. I mean, we have an album out now. It's about 4 years old.
That's why I said
Currently we're
whenever you have a new album out.
yeah, yeah. We're working on some new stuff, like new projects, and like we just released our newest like single out. It's called Valentine. I love that song. It's
Ooh.
great. So you can listen to that on all streaming platforms. Um, all the platforms and stuff like that. And we have some singles out too. So yeah.
I'll definitely have to delve into that Valentine, and like I said, definitely keep me in the loop when you guys get that next album out because
Oh,
I would love to have you in the group and talk about like the experience on the music aspect. I know this has been a very animated oriented one, but obviously seeing the guitar you have in your background right there, I know and from what you were talking about
oh,
beforehand, music is a very strong influence for you.
extremely. Yeah. Goodness. Yeah.
As we start to wind down the interview, I just have one last question I want to ask you, Wisdom. Obviously, you've been deeply entrenched in art for ages at this point, for as long as you can probably remember. Art's been a part of you one way or another. How
Yeah.
important is art, not just for you, but for the world as a whole?
I think art is like it's like how you, or at least for me, like it's how like I learn things. And I think it's important for people to learn things through art.
Mm-hmm.
However that may be. I think there's a lot of value in self-expression, which is what art is. And I think if we're able to like listen to people and just kind of like take things from their perspective, I think you'll just get a better understanding of the world, or at least how people like work. Um,
Absolutely.
yeah, and I think that was like a realization that just kind of struck me like a few like maybe months ago. It's like wow, like the way I go through art or the way I perceive art is like how I communicate with people or how people perceive me and etc. Like it's very like personal. Um, so if you're able to communicate yourself through that and have people understand you, um, that's like that's super important.
Absolutely. That is wonderfully worded, if I do say so myself. Um,
Thank you.
that is all the questions I have for Wisdom. I've already showered you with a bunch of praise, but I'm gonna shower you with a little bit more because it's my podcast. I do what I want. Um, look, like I said, obviously, like anyone in animation at this point, anyone that even pays remotely any attention to indie animation, they've heard your story before. How a 14-year-old kid basically animated an entire pilot by himself. Like that alone was impressive and warranted a guaranteed spot on this podcast in the first place. But obviously, like doing some more research into your stuff and seeing that you kept up with it, the stuff developed more, and the fact that you were able to really hone your craft a lot more, especially with a crew, and really develop it to this incredible, unique world that I'm so absorbed in and definitely want to see more of. Like that, I was nothing short of impressed seeing how much it's been able to come along, and especially getting to talk to you now. Sorry, getting to talk to you now, getting the opportunity to learn kind of the story and how much this stuff has a real influence on you. Like I already had a good level of respect for you, but now it's like just through the roof more than anything else. Like I, it's incredible how much art really means to you, and I'm glad that that translates well, especially with the art you push out there, and I could hope that that continues to do more, especially as you go forth into these next steps, especially into the world of college, into adulthood, which is really scary. It is really scary, man, but
Very.
I think if you keep up that love more than anything else and keep up the impressive work you've been able to do, there's nothing you can't do. You'll be able to go far in this world. So keep up the impressive work, man. Like seriously, like you're doing a fantastic job. Obviously, slow down to take breaks and breathe a little bit. But I I'm gonna be rooting for you every single step of the way with whatever you're gonna do next. So thank you for what you do.
I appreciate that extremely. Thank you so much. Yeah. Thank you for like this platform, especially as I said at the beginning, like this is like the dream platform. Like having independent artists like come on here and like talk about like where they come from. It's just like such a beautiful like just area to share your story and all that stuff. So thank you so much for doing that.
I mean, it's one of those, like, in today's day and age, to where like art seems to be respected a lot less and less, where people think they can just, type in a couple words and boom, that's art or something like that, or they think that a monkey that they buy fake currency for or whatnot, like they think that's art. Like, platforms like this need to exist. Platforms like this need to be out there because the people that are dedicating themselves to this craft, just as yourself, deserve that love and respect and support, because you guys are putting yourselves out there. You guys are doing everything you can to really, like, just let your true self be on full display, and that I believe deserves all the love and support for as much as you guys give. That's why I'm more than happy to do this. I'm sorry, I'm gonna cry. Now, if for some reason, if people have not seen your stuff beforehand and they want to absorb it and then some, go ahead and plug your stuff for the people at home.
Yeah, of course. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky at Wizzymmd70, and you can find my band nunnabove, Nunn above, at on Instagram, Spotify, Twitter, etc.
Which also
Yeah.
leads me to one more question I forgot to ask sooner. Where did the name
Mhm.
Wizzymmd70 come from? Was it just like a randomly generated one that you had or whatnot, or?
No, actually, that came from. I love this question. Thank you. This came from like eighth grade of in school. A friend of mine at the time had joked with me about like making a rap like album, and
Okay.
he would like we were joking and we'd call it no, it's the seventh grade. He'd call it Wizzy Makes Me Dizzy, and
Oh.
I love that name. And so when I was like changing my Instagram name from just like Wisdom Nunn, I changed it to Wizzy MMD for Makes Me Dizzy. And then 70, because seven's my favorite number, and then zero just cause.
Okay. Now I'm never gonna forget now that Wizzy MMD is Wizzy makes me dizzy. I'm that
It makes me
that rolls off the tongue. Like, if you ever decide to go, if you ever decide to break away from the None Above band or whatnot, like, stick with that name. That name, like, grabs people's attention more than anything else.
a very fun name. Yeah.
God, I love that now. Do you have any final words before we sign off?
Um, no, watch Bob's World, listen to my band, and look out for episode 4 when it comes out. And appreciate your support.
Exactly. And of course, support indie animation, especially today and every day, more than anything else. And of course, with that, all I have left to say is, for the people at home, or at least for the higher ups, pay your artists.
Tell me what's wrong, tell me sparks in motion. Sing me a song, tell me your eyes can all open. Show me it all, pick me up in the car you drove when you used to call. Show me it all.
Thank you so much for sticking around to the end. If this is your first time listening, I greatly do appreciate you sticking around to this point. Like I said at the intro, Wisdom is an incredibly talented artist and a really cool one to chat with. Wisdom, if you've gotten up to this point, sincerely, thank you for the opportunity to chat with you. This conversation was as cool as I thought it was going to be. I'm not going to lie. And especially hearing your story about developing Bob's World and really making it to the idea that you want to be. Stories like this is why I am always going to champion indie animation. Always going to champion Indie Animation Day in particular. Like what Wisdom was talking about, that's the dream in a way. That is an incredible ideal situation of just going forth and creating this incredible vision that they love and enjoy. Like, how can you not help but root for that? Like, is it rough? Of course it's going to be a little bit rough. It's someone going forth and doing something on their own. Not everyone's going to nail it first time around, not without a little practice beforehand. But he put forth an incredible project that people loved and enjoyed and wanted to see more of and wanted to show support of. That's what indie animation is all about. You know, a major thing when it comes to indie animation as well is, you know, the amazing digital circus. Obviously, at the time they're recording this, it just hit 100 million views on YouTube. That is insane. I mean, just look at the indie animation space before us now. We have so many incredible projects, so much of a variety of projects that, to be blunt, a lot of the stuff has the quality that is as good, if not better, than what the studios are presenting on mainstream media. People are going forth and telling the incredible stories that they truly want to, asking help if they can to truly make it reality. I mean, I can firmly say I'm a part of it in one way or another, whether it's promoting these incredible projects just like Bob's World and such, or the fact that I'm helping Tipsy make her own for a project that is near and dear for her, that instead of trying to pitch it to 20 million different studios to see if it make it work, she is taking it into her own hands to go forth and create the vision of something that she holds near and dear to her heart, telling the story how she wants to tell it. With something like that, that's why I couldn't not support her. That's why I could not, you know, hop on and help with the writing and try to bring her vision to life. That's why for any indie animation creators, if you truly put in the time and effort and show the love and the passion and make sure to compensate your artists if you can, as long as I see that there's a lot of that you hold near and dear, I'm going to champion indie animation till the end of time. There's so much good, incredible, creative stuff that is being presented out there, and you guys are each doing a fantastic job. Sincerely. Every single time I see some new pilot or some new concept that someone's pushing out there, I get excited. You know, obviously there's like the evil little thing, Lumi in the Great Big Galaxy, Tally Ho, Hey, was it Screen Time? I think it's called Screen Time. The one by Hats Off Media. That one looks absolutely incredible. I can go on when it comes to a list. Like The Will of Monsters, Swift Spark. Like, there are too many incredible projects for me to just list on it. Like, I could do an hour's worth of just. I can have a dedicated podcast talking an hour of just about all the incredible projects that I'm excited for, that I want to see more of. That's why I sincerely hope that you guys are really going out there and really supporting indie animation to its fullest. Indie animation needs all the love and support that we can get, and you guys are doing a fantastic job so far, but let's keep it going. Let's really ramp it up, and let's showcase that love to people like Wisdom, people like Tipsy, people like Tunerific Tariq, to Hats Off Media, to Show Tuesday, to Star Tease, Ash's Art, all these incredible people. Let's really showcase that love to them and really champion that indie animation can be incredible.